Theo typed his resignation letter at the kitchen table on a Thursday night, 41 years old, with about $1.4 million to his name. And before he let himself print it, he wrote one more number at the top of a legal pad, the part of his pay that had never once appeared on his pay stub. Because here's what Theo had figured out, and what almost nobody who daydreams about retiring early ever checks. The paycheck was never the whole paycheck. His job had been paying him twice, once in money he could see and once in money he couldn't. There's a name for that second salary, and I want you to remember it, because this whole video is about the moment it disappears. The invisible paycheck. So tonight, we're going to climb the whole thing. From the very first rung, which cost about $400, all the way up to the rung Theo was standing on, and at the top, I'll show you the bill taped underneath it. First, the picture I want in your head. Your money is a ladder you build yourself, one rung at a time, out of the gross pay you didn't spend. Every dollar you keep becomes a rung. You can't skip rungs, and you can only ever stand as high as you've already built. That's the whole game. Now let's find out where you're standing on it. The ladder starts lower than anyone admits. The Federal Reserve runs a survey on household finances, fielded in October of 2024, and it asks a plain question: could you cover a $400 emergency using only cash or its equivalent? About 63% of adults said yes, which means about 37% said no, nearly 4 people out of every 10. So before you picture a $1.4 million portfolio, picture a tire blowing on a Tuesday. If that $400 lands on a credit card, you're not on the ladder yet. You're standing on the ground, looking up, and you have more company down there than anyone says out loud. You know this feeling even if you've never named it. It's the check engine light you keep driving with. Not because you don't care, because looking costs money you haven't got yet. Now, the first real rung isn't a dollar amount. It's a percentage, the share of your pay that becomes ladder instead of life. And the national habit is worse than you think. As of this past June, the personal saving rate in this country was about 2.7% of after-tax income. That's the Bureau of Economic Analysis, not a guess. The country as a whole banks under 3 cents on every take-home dollar. Run that on a salary of about $100,000 gross. The national habit keeps roughly $2,500 a year. At that pace, the ladder grows a rung every few years, and 1.4 million by 41 isn't a plan, it's a wish. A climb like that is built one way, a saving percentage in the double digits held there for years. Not better funds, a bigger percentage. Here's your test. Think of your last raise. Can you point to where it lives today? For most of us, it never became a rung. It became a slightly nicer version of the same life. That's not weakness, that's wiring. People are built to spend to the edge of whatever comes in. The whole trick of the ladder is outbuilding a reflex nobody warned you about. Climb one rung higher and the crowd thins fast. The Congressional Research Service went through the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances and found that about 46% of American households have exactly $0 in retirement accounts. Not a small balance, not behind. 0 rungs. Flip a coin on your street. Those are roughly the odds the household next door has nothing in a retirement account at all. And among the households that do own one, the middle balance is about $87,000. That's the median rung height in America. You've met this beat in real life. It's the coworker who skips the retirement plan every enrollment season, not because they don't understand compounding, but because the paycheck already doesn't stretch. So the employer match, free rungs sitting on the table, walks out the door untouched. From the outside, it looks like a mistake. From inside that paycheck, it's just Tuesday. Now look near the top of the ladder because this is where the air gets thin. About 4.6% of households hold more than $1 million in retirement accounts, fewer than 5 in 100. And the ones who do are mostly finishing a full working life. The share peaks between 55 and 64 at about 9%. Then the researchers tried to count households aged 35 to 44 with over 1 million, and they couldn't print the number. Too few in the entire national sample, fewer than 30 households. The government's own statisticians looked at millionaire in your late 30s and ruled it too rare to publish. So sit with what Theo actually did. Retiring at 41 with 1.4 million doesn't make you a good saver. It puts you in a bracket so thin the survey won't put a number on it. And this is where every version of this story usually ends. The resignation letter. The quiet parking lot at 11 in the morning. Roll credits. This is exactly where we're not going to end. Because the top of this ladder has a surprise bolted to it, and it's the reason Theo was still at that table at midnight instead of printing the letter at 9. First, a confession, because I've stood at the bottom of this exact ladder. I've run this math on myself, late at night, calculator app, the age I wanted to be done, and the number I figured I'd need. And I have to be honest about what I was actually doing. I wasn't planning, I was escaping, daydreaming with numbers on. I wanted the part where the alarm never goes off again, and I skipped the part where somebody still has to pay for the dentist. If you've done that midnight math too, this next part is for both of us. Here's what the top rung actually pays. There's a standard rule of thumb: draw about 4% of the portfolio a year, so it has a real chance of outliving you. 4% of 1.4 million is about $56,000 a year, gross, before a single dollar of tax. Now set that next to the country. Real median household income was about $83,700 in 2024. That's the Census Bureau, and that's gross too. Do you see it? Theo climbed to a rung so rare the government won't print it, and his prize is a pay cut, about a third less than the median household that's still setting an alarm. $1.4 million at 41 doesn't buy a yacht. It buys a modest salary you can never get promoted out of. It's telling someone you retired at 41 and quietly running the grocery total in your head while you say it. And the spending side is worse. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks what households actually spend, about $78,500 a year on average, against about $104,000 of gross income. Set the $56,000 draw against that spending, and it covers about 71%. Roughly $22,500 of ordinary life, uncovered, before taxes even enter the room. This is the rung where two sentences quietly split apart. I have $1.4 million is one sentence. I can afford my current life is a different sentence. The budget works perfectly right up until the water heater, the dental crown, and the wedding invitation all land in the same month. Averages never have that month. You will. Now, the invisible paycheck. Remember that phrase? Here's where it detonates. If your job gives you family health coverage, the full price of that coverage is about $27,000 a year. That's KFF's Employer Health Benefits Survey. But you've only ever seen your share of it, call it $6,900, deducted quietly from the stub. Your employer has been paying the other 3/4, about 75%, every year, invisibly, on top of your salary. Hand in the letter, and the whole $27,000 becomes yours. Set it against a $56,000 gross draw, and one line item eats almost half. The number on your pay stub was never the price. It was the discount. And the first time you shop for coverage alone is the first time you meet the real bill. And the invisible paycheck has one more layer, the coldest one. The retirement rules were written for a ladder you finish climbing in your 60s. Pull money out of most retirement accounts before 59 and a half, and the IRS adds an extra 10% tax on top. That's their own published rule, not fine print. There's an exception if you leave a job at 55 or later. At 41, you're above the rungs the rules were built to hold. The biggest pile of money you own is built into rungs you can't legally stand on for another 18 years, not without careful workarounds. And on the far side of the climb, Social Security is quietly keeping score. Your benefit is an average of your best 35 earning years, 420 monthly entries, and every year you never work goes into that formula as a zero. Stop at 41, and close to half of those entries can stay empty forever. The formula doesn't know you retired, it only knows you stopped. Claim early at 62, with a full retirement age of 67, and the check is permanently cut by about 30%, straight from the Social Security Administration's own table. It's the mailed statement with a number smaller than you expected, and the quiet realization that it will never be recalculated upward. So what is the ladder actually for if the top rung has a bill taped under it? It's not a scoreboard, it's a lens. From halfway up, the coworker skipping the match looks like a mistake. From rung 0, where a $400 tire is a genuine crisis, it's a reasonable Tuesday. From the top, a $56,000 salary looks small. From the ground, it looks like everything. Nobody in this story is lazy, and nobody is a villain. Not the neighbor with no rungs, not Theo. Not you, at whatever height you're reading your own ladder from tonight. This is just how people are wired. We spend to the edge, and we count the paycheck we can see instead of the one we can't. And the whole point of seeing the wiring is simple. Once you see it, you can build around it. So here's the whole ladder, one pass, bottom to top. Rung 0, $400 in actual cash. About 37% of the country isn't there yet. The first climbing rungs, a saving percentage in double digits when the national habit is under 3 cents on the dollar. The middle, any retirement account at all, about 46% of households own none. The high rungs, the $1 million club, fewer than 5 households in 100, and almost none of them young. And the summit, a modest gross salary, a real spending gap, a $27,000 health bill you've never seen. Plus 2 rules waiting up there. One that taxes any rung you touch before 59 and a half, and one that writes a 0 into your record for every year you never work. Now your version of the math. Take your gross pay and multiply it by the percentage you actually kept last year. That's the rung you built. Take the number you daydream about and take 4% of it. That's your summit salary. Set it next to what you actually spent last year, then add the full price of your health coverage, not your share, the full price. That's not the dream number. That's the price number. And the price number is the only one that holds your weight. Because here's the last thing, the thing above the top rung. The ladder was never the point. Nobody lies awake wanting a balance. They want the Thursday Theo wanted, a day that belongs to them. The top of this ladder isn't have the most. It's use it well. A life the number is actually 4. Some people find that at 1.4 million at 41. Some people find most of it sooner, lower on the ladder, in work they genuinely miss. Theo printed the letter. 41 years old, about $1.4 million, and a legal pad with the invisible paycheck priced out at the top. The premium, the penalty, the zeros, all of it, in ink. He handed it in on a Thursday morning with his eyes open, not because the math was easy, because he'd finally done the honest version. So there's your fork. You can keep daydreaming with the numbers on the age, the balance, the quiet parking lot. Or tonight, on the back of anything, you can price your real ladder, the rung you're standing on, the rung you're building, and the invisible paycheck you'd be walking away from. And if you do price it, leave 2 numbers in the comments, the age you want out, and the rung you're honestly standing on today. Because half the people reading them are on the ground floor too, and honest numbers are how everyone climbs. If this put a real price tag on something you'd only ever squinted at, the like button says so. And subscribing means the next honest number finds you before you need it. Go price your ladder. You'll climb better knowing exactly what's waiting at the top. Before you go, here's the whole ladder in one breath. 1. Rung 0 is $400, not 1.4 million. The Federal Reserve asks American households a plain question. Could you cover a $400 emergency using only cash or its equivalent? About 63% say yes, which means about 37% say no, nearly 4 in 10. Before you picture a portfolio, picture the tire that blows on a Tuesday. If that $400 goes on a card, you are standing on the ground looking up, and you have a lot of company down there. 2. The first real rung is a percentage, not a fund. As of this past June, the personal saving rate in this country was about 2.7% of after-tax income, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The country as a whole banks under 3 cents on every take-home dollar. Run that on $100,000 of gross pay, and the national habit keeps about $2,500 a year. A climb to 1.4 million is not built by picking better funds. It is built by pushing that percentage into the double digits and holding it there for years. 3. Nearly half of American households own 0 rungs. The Congressional Research Service went through the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances and found that about 46% of households have exactly $0 in retirement accounts. Not a small balance. Nothing. And among the households that do own one, the middle balance is about $87,000. That is the median rung height in America. Meanwhile, only about 4.5% of households hold more than $1 million, and the ones who do are mostly finishing a full working life. 4. The top rung pays a pay cut, not a yacht. Draw the standard 4% from 1.4 million, and you get about $56,000 a year, gross, before a single dollar of tax. The Census Bureau puts real median household income at about $83,700, also gross. So the rare bracket the government will not print a number for lands about a third below the median household that is still setting an alarm. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics says households actually spend about $78,500 a year on average, so that draw covers roughly 71% of ordinary life. Call it $22,500 a year uncovered, before taxes even enter the room. 5. The invisible paycheck is the bill taped under the top rung, and it has 3 parts. The premium, family health coverage through a job costs about $27,000 a year in total, and your employer has quietly been paying about 75% of it. Walk away, and the whole thing is yours, which is nearly half of that $56,000 draw in one line item. The penalty. Pull money out of most retirement accounts before 59 and a half. And the Internal Revenue Service adds an extra 10% tax on top, with the leave your job exception starting at 55, not 41. And the zeros, Social Security averages your best 35 earning years, 420 monthly entries, and every year you never work goes into that formula as a zero. Stop at 41, and close to half of those entries can stay empty forever. So here is your version of the math tonight. Take your gross pay and multiply it by the percentage you actually kept last year. That is the rung you built. Take the number you daydream about and take 4% of it. That is your summit salary. Set that next to what you really spent last year and then add the full price of your health coverage. Not your share. The full price. That is not the dream number. That is the priced number. And the priced number is the only one that holds your weight.